Captain Jason Richards heard a loud bang and his head snapped toward the plane's windows. Outside, a dark cloud swirled around the aircraft. Birds, hundreds of them, were attacking the Boeing 737. "What the hell?" he muttered, gripping the controls tighter. First Officer Jimmy Chen leaned forward. "I've never seen anything like this." Jason tried to shake the birds with gentle banking maneuvers, but had to be careful. If birds were sucked into the engines, the entire plane could go down. Strangely, the more he tried to avoid them, the more aggressive they became. "Contact flight control," Jason ordered. "Find out if anyone else has reported unusual bird activity in the area." In the cabin, passengers pressed their faces against windows that were increasingly blacked out by feathered bodies. The birds' wings and bodies darkened the cabin, creating an eerie atmosphere that sent ripples of anxiety through the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen," the chief flight attendant announced, her voice admirably steady, "we're experiencing some unexpected wildlife activity around the aircraft. Captain Richards has everything under control." But Jason knew it wasn't under control. He'd never encountered a bird swarm of this magnitude or aggression. When Jimmy finally got through to flight control, their instructions were clear. "Delta 1852, redirect to Clearwater Regional Airport. It's smaller, but closer to your position. Emergency services will be standing by." Jason acknowledged the instructions and began the turn. As they left the metropolitan area, he hoped the birds would disperse, but instead, the situation worsened. New flocks emerged from the forests below, drawn to the aircraft like moths to a flame. "They're targeting the engines," Jimmy said, pointing to the starboard side where birds were slamming themselves against the housing. Jason focused entirely on reaching Clearwater when a deafening bang shook the aircraft. The plane lurched violently to one side. "Engine 1 is gone!" Jimmy shouted over the alarms. Through the cabin windows, terrified passengers could see flames licking from the damaged engine. Screams erupted throughout the cabin. Jason scanned the landscape below. They were losing altitude too quickly to reach the airport, but he spotted a large lake about 2 miles ahead. It was their only chance. "Prepare for water landing," he commanded over the intercom. "Cabin crew to stations." Every second counted as Jason fought to keep the plane level. The surface of the lake rushed up to meet them. The impact was jarring, a series of hard bumps followed by the hiss of water against the fuselage. "Everyone out! Life vests on!" Jason shouted, moving through the cabin. Flight attendant Maria Rodriguez struggled with the forward exit door. "It's jammed!" Panic threatened to overtake the passengers until the rear exit opened with a hiss. Outside, the birds continued their relentless assault. "Move quickly but orderly," Jason instructed the passengers. "Into the water. They seem less aggressive when we're submerged." Despite his instructions, several passengers shoved their way to the front, desperate to escape. As predicted, they were immediately attacked upon exiting, forcing them to dive into the water, where the birds mysteriously backed off. The Coast Guard arrived within 20 minutes, but when they approached the partially submerged aircraft, the birds became frenzied. "Stay back!" Jason shouted from the water. "They go crazy when anyone gets near the cargo hold." Coast Guard Captain Reyes nodded. "Everyone swim toward our vessels. We'll retrieve you from a safe distance." As passengers and crew were pulled aboard rescue boats, Jason noticed something strange. The birds weren't just attacking randomly. They were focused on the baggage compartment, as if trying to get inside. "Something's in there," he told Captain Reyes. "Those birds want something in the cargo hold." Police Detective Sloan approached Jason once he was safely aboard. "Tell me about your passengers and cargo." "Standard passenger flight," Jason explained, shivering under an emergency blanket, though the birds seemed particularly interested in the luggage area. From another boat, Jason watched as a passenger was separated from the others. The man was fidgeting nervously while speaking with police officers. "Who's that?" Jason asked. "Won't give a straight answer about his luggage," Detective Sloan replied. "Passport doesn't check out either." When the Coast Guard attempted to approach the wreckage again, the birds swarmed aggressively. Jason remembered something from his flight training. "Airports use high-frequency sound to deter birds," he suggested. "It might give us an opening." The Coast Guard deployed speakers broadcasting the deterrent sounds, and remarkably, the birds scattered. Tugboats quickly moved in to secure the aircraft and tow it to shore. Once the plane was safely on land, a specialized team entered the wreckage. Jason insisted on accompanying them to the cargo hold. "Listen," one technician said as they approached a particular suitcase. "You hear that? Faint chirping sounds came from inside. When they carefully opened it, Jason gasped. The case contained dozens of small exotic birds in tiny compartments, many still alive despite their ordeal. Smuggling, Detective Sloan said grimly. The wild birds were trying to rescue their own. The passenger with the fake passport was identified as Marcus Webb, a convicted wildlife trafficker who had been recently released from prison. His fingerprints connected him to an international smuggling ring, specializing in rare birds worth thousands on the black market. 6 weeks later, Jason sat in a courtroom as Webb was sentenced to 15 years for wildlife trafficking and endangering the lives of everyone aboard Flight Delta 1852. The birds outside were responding to distress calls from the captive birds, the ornithologist testified. It's unprecedented behavior, but these particular species are known for strong flock responses to distress. After the trial, Maria approached Jason in the courthouse corridor. "How are you holding up?" she asked. Jason smiled tiredly. "Still having nightmares, but they're getting better. You?" "Same. They offered me a transfer to ground operations, but I'm not ready to give up flying." "That's the spirit," Jason said. "I'm back in the simulator next week." As they walked outside, a flock of sparrows scattered from a nearby tree. Jason flinched involuntarily. "Some instincts take time to fade," Maria observed. Jason watched the birds disappear into the sky. "I keep thinking about those smuggled birds. At least they're safe now, released back where they belong." "And Webb is where he belongs too," Maria added. Jason nodded. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm grateful for those birds. If they hadn't attacked, we might never have discovered what was happening." Above them, the sky was clear and blue, the wild birds flying free as nature intended.